guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Fayy Lenee back with another video, and for today's video I am bringing you guys my top 10 must-have bronzers, women of color approved, okay? Because I already know that the struggle is real. It's summertime and we trying to look bronzy too. We trying to look sun-kissed too, and it can be very difficult, I already know, to find bronzers that are brown girl friendly. So today I'm bringing you guys my top 10 bronzers, and I do have a mix of affordable and high-end, so whatever your budget is, I got you covered, girl. And I'm going to be giving you guys a bunch of different options that have really good or pretty decent shade ranges for anyone that is around my complexion or deeper. Now, that's not to say that these brands don't have shades that are suitable for lighter complexions, but I definitely wanted to give my brown skin beauty some options just because I know that I personally have struggled to find bronzers that complement my complexion. So I feel like I have a pretty decent bronzer collection now, and I wanted to share with you guys some of my favorites. So before we get into the video, if you are new, definitely be sure to subscribe to my channel down below. You already know I would love to have you as part of my fam, so definitely be sure to click on that red button down below before you move on into the video. Just, you know, you can do it while you watch. Just go ahead and click. And if you enjoy this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and turn on your post notifications so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And let's go ahead and get into my top 10. Alright, so I'm going to start with affordable bronzers and then move up to the more high-end bronzers. So, you know, like I said in the intro, those of you guys that might be trying to ball on a budget, I have a nice even spread of a bunch of different price points of bronzers. So first up, I have a bronzer from Wet n Wild. This one is the Color Icon bronzer, and I have mine in the shade What Shady Beaches. And I wanted to give this one a mention because I mentioned in a previous favorites video I had picked up a different shade. I don't remember what that shade was, but I thought it was the darkest shade, and I kind of went in on them just for not having any shades for deeper complexions. But I don't remember where I was when I found this bronzer. It might have been Walmart, but I saw this one and I was like, you know what, that one looks like it might work for me. So I went ahead and picked it up. You guys already know Wet n Wild is super affordable, and this is a very beautiful bronzer. It applies a little bit deeper than it actually looks in the pan, and I'll try to give you guys a little swatch. It's gonna be hard to see bronzers, I feel like, in a swatch, but I'll still try to swatch for you guys. So that is what that bronzer looks like right there. It actually looks a lot warmer on the swatch, but when you apply it to the face, it blends out really nicely and it looks really beautiful on the skin. So wanted to mention that one first. So next up for affordable bronzers, I have these from Physicians Formula. These are the Butter Bronzers, and they actually recently, like within this past year, came out with some new shades for their Butter Bronzer. For the longest time, they just had like, I think 3 or 4 different shades, and it is no secret, I guess you can say, that Physicians Formula is not the most inclusive brand, but their Butter Bronzer is definitely like a cult favorite product. So when I saw that they came out with new shades, I was very excited to see that they were expanding their range because this is a really great bronzer. So I have 2 shades. The first one that I have is Deep Bronzer. This one was one of the original shades. And then the second one that I have is the shade Sculpting Bronzer. And this one is much deeper, as you can see. So when I put them right next to each other, you can see this one is much deeper, and even on my complexion I can't necessarily go in with just this one by itself because it's too deep for me, but I do like to use this one if I want to go in and sculpt out the cheeks or just really like contour and like sculpt my face. I'll go in with this one. But if you have a little bit more of a deeper complexion, this will probably be a really good bronzer shade for you because it kind of leans just a little bit red, which I've had a couple of you guys mention to me actually works for deeper complexion. So definitely have to give these a mention because, like I said, these are really good bronzers, a little bit more on the high end for drugstore, but the quality of these is bomb. So the next 2 bronzers that I have to share with you guys are from Morphe, and the first one that I have is the Morphe Bronzer. Now these actually launched last year, and the shade that I have is in the shade Celebutante, which looks like this. Now they actually did a pretty good job on the shade range for these. Several of my friends purchase these that have deeper complexions, and the shades worked very well for their skin tones. So thumbs up to Morphe for, you know, being inclusive and having a couple of different shades for a bunch of different complexions to choose from. But like I said, I picked up mine in the shade Celebutant, which looks like this. And the cool thing about these is that you have half of the pan that is matte and half of the pan that is kind of like a shimmer. So you can use them separately, like the matte shade just to bronze and the shimmer shade just to highlight, or you can mix them together for like a really sun-kissed kind of glowy bronze to the face. So they really did a great job with these. Definitely had to give them a mention. And then the next one from Morphe is a newer bronzer. This one is the Glamour Bronze Face and Body Bronzer. I mentioned this bronzer recently. I think it might have been in my most recent favorites video. I'm not for sure which video it was that I mentioned it in. But this right here, if you have not picked up this bronzer and you are on the hunt for an affordable option, I would highly recommend this one. First of all, the pan size is huge, freaking huge. And the thing that really stood out to me about this bronzer is they only have 3 shades. I think it's like light, medium, and deep. Or no, well, no. They have actual names, but they have like a light, a medium, and then a deep. This is the darkest one. It's in the shade Phenom. I guess is how you pronounce it. But I picked this one up because I just assumed that I should just go ahead and get the darkest one because it probably would be just barely dark enough for me. But this bronzer right here, I'll try to swatch it for you guys, but it shows up much darker. Like, look at this. And my lights may be brightening the color up a little bit, but this bronzer, I mean, look at that in comparison to my skin tone. This bronzer is dark. So it definitely caught me off guard when I applied it to my face the first time because I was not expecting it to be as dark as it was, because it comes off a little bit darker on the skin than it actually looks in the pan. So much so that I will probably go back and get the next shade up because I think this one might be too dark for me. So if you have been passing this, I got mine from Ulta. If you've been passing by it and feeling like, oh, it's probably not going to be dark enough for me, girl, pick it up, try it out. If it doesn't work out, you can always return it, but you might be surprised because I was definitely surprised when I applied it to my face and it was super dark. So yes, definitely had to mention this one. All right, so that is all that I have for affordable bronzers. So now I'm going to start to move into some of my more high-end bronzers. And the first one that I have to share with you guys is from Becca. And this is the Becca Sunlit Bronzer in Ipanema Sun. Now, Becca actually launched these bronzers last year, I believe. I think it might have been closer to the beginning of last year. And they came out with, I want to say, a good bit of shades, maybe 8. I don't know for sure, but I'll try to, of course, everything I mentioned, I will link for you guys down below in the description. I think it was 8 shades, but I'm not, don't quote me on that. But the one that I ended up picking up is the shade Ipanema Sun, and I think there are actually 2 additional shades after this one for deeper complexions. This is another bronzer that I watched a ton of reviews on, and people with my complexion, lighter than my complexion, and deeper than my complexion were able to find a shade that worked for their skin tone. So Becca really did a great job with these bronzers. I think this came out right around the time when everyone was kind of starting to jump on the inclusive bandwagon, for lack of better words, and we were starting to see a lot more brands expanding their ranges and coming out with collections with a pretty decent shade range. I think that is when this launched, like in the beginning of that whole process. We're like deep into it now, but when that first started being a thing, I believe that is when these launched, and she did a really good job with the shades. So right along with Becca, another one that I have is from Anastacio. I believe both of these launched around the same time because I feel like I remember purchasing them around the same time as each other. This one I picked up in the shade, what shade is this? Saddle. And this is another one that when it came out, I saw a lot of women with deeper complexions really hyping it up and saying that she did a bomb job with the shades. I think I even remember Jackie doing a review on these or including them in one of her videos and just talking about how bomb the shade range was and how good the bronzer looked on her complexion. So for those of you guys that may use her as a shade reference, she was able to find a shade that worked for her to bronze. So here is a swatch of this one right here. Again, I kind of feel like bronzer shades are a little bit pointless to swatch with the exception of this one, because you can see clearly how much deeper than my complexion this bronzer was. But this is a really nice kind of neutral bronzer. It can be used with a light hand just to bronze the face, or it can be used to really chisel out the cheeks, because again, it is more of a neutral shade. Not too warm, not too cool, just a perfect neutral for my complexion. So the next bronzer that I have to share with you guys is from none other than our girl RiRi. You guys probably already know, I'm sure, that Fenty recently launched a whole line of bronzers, and it should come as no surprise to you guys that the shade range was exquisite. So I did go ahead and pick up one. I have the shade Caramel Cutie, and I did do a full review on the new products that she recently launched, including the bronzer, the new Kilowatt highlighter, and the new Kilowatt Freestyle highlighter. So if you're interested in that, I will link it for you guys. But first of all, the packaging on this is just stunning. I low-key wish all of her packaging looked like this because I'm obsessed. But when you open it up, you have a mirror on the inside, and then of course the product. Now the thing that I really love about this shade is, again, similar to the Anastacio one, this is like a neutral bronzer, and I do actually have this one on my face right now. So you can see it kind of just gives me a very natural shadow. It doesn't look overdone, but you can build this up to a really like chiseled bronzer or even a contour. So I feel like this is a very versatile shade if you have a complexion similar to mine, because you can use it with a light hand to bronze, kind of like how I did today, or you can really deepen it up, focus it in the hollows of your cheeks, and use it as more of a contour. So she did a really great job with these. I believe the shade above this one, I think it's called Bajan Girl or Bajan Girl. That one is more of a warm bronzer, so if you prefer more warm tones, you can pick up that one. And I have seen a couple of people here on YouTube that have both shades, and they use the warm one to warm up the face, and they use this one to contour. So depending on what your preference is, RiRi has got you covered on the bronzers. There's a lot of different options that you can choose from. Even for myself, I ended up going with this one, but I could have gone with the Bajan Girl shade as well. All right, so 3 more bronzers left. Next up, I wanted to mention to you guys this one from Kylie Cosmetics. This is the Kylie Cosmetics Pressed Bronzing Powder, and I have mine in the shade Tanned and Gorgeous. Now, I was actually on the fence about picking up a bronzer from Kylie. I wasn't gonna get one, but then I saw Shayla from Makeup Shayla talking about how bomb they were. She, of course, received them in PR, but she did a review on them, and she just was talking about how beautiful they were and how much she was using them and how beautifully they applied to the skin. So, of course, after I watched that video, I was sold, and I ended up picking it up. And I'm really glad that I did. This is also a beautiful bronzer. This is another one that, as you can see, is a lot more on the neutral side. This one actually leans a little bit more on the cool side of neutral than it does on the warm side of neutral. But again, for my preference, I don't mind that at all. I tend to prefer bronzers that can kind of double as bronzers and contour shades if I want them to. I can apply them with a light hand to bronze, or I can go in a little bit heavier and deepen it up to contour. So that's kind of like what I've been saying about all of these bronzers. That is my preference. So if that is something that you like and you have a similar complexion to mine, this would be a good shade for you. But again, she has several different shades that you can choose from. So, you know, you can pick and choose based on what you prefer. But I love the packaging on these. I love all of her packaging. It's just so clean and sleek and just super cute. And the product on the inside is bomb. So next up, I have an OG bronzer that for the longest time did not have shades available for deeper complexions. But this year, they actually came out with 2 additional deeper shades, and that is the Benefit Hoola bronzer. So I actually have 3 shades. I have the original Hoola, I have the Hoola Toasted, and Hoola Caramel. Hoola Toasted and Caramel are the 2 new shades, and honestly, I'm so glad that they finally came out with these deeper shades. Like, it is about time. Benefit, it's about time. So this is the original Hoola bronzer shade, and believe it or not, this shade does work on my complexion just barely. I do have to build it up a good bit, but it does work as a decent kind of cool toned bronzer. But if you are deeper than my complexion, this will be completely pointless for you. It will look ashy on you. It won't look good. Just don't even bother. But they came out with these 2 new shades, and these are gorgeous for deeper complexions. So this one right here is Hula Caramel, and this one right here is Hula Toasted. And both of these honestly are absolutely gorgeous. Hula Toasted is way too dark for my complexion, but I do like to mix them together to give me like my perfect bronze, if that makes sense. Hula Caramel is going to give me more of a warm bronze, but again, you guys know I like my neutrals, so I went ahead and picked up both of the shades so that I could kind of mix them together to customize my bronzer shade. So I'll go ahead and show you guys some swatches really quickly. So here we have Hula Caramel, which again you can barely see. It's just ever so slightly darker than my skin tone, so it makes a really great bronzer for me. And then here we have Hula Toasted, and I'm not sure how well you can see that right there, but Hula Toasted is definitely a little bit more of a red undertone, which again, you guys that have deeper complexions have mentioned to me in previous videos that those tones or undertones tend to work better for your complexions, but this one is definitely super deep. Neither of these really swatch very well, but again, I feel like it's so hard to swatch bronzers because I mean they're not going to be that much more, like that much different than your complexion. You're trying to create natural shadows, so it's kind of hard to give you guys decent swatches. But the Hula Caramel, like I said, is going to give you a really nice warm bronze. If you are my complexion, it would be a really good fit for you. Or if you are a woman of color but you're a little bit lighter than me and the original Hula did not work out for you, this would be a good one to try out if you prefer more warm tone bronzers. And then of course, if you have a deeper complexion, Hula Toasted would be your go-to. Alright, so we are down to our very last bronzer in the top 10 that I have for you guys, and it is from NARS. This is an OG bronzer, so I figured it would be the perfect one to end out this video. This bronzer has been around for forever, and I have mine in the shade Casino. This was one of my first purchases that I ever got from NARS. I have more products from them now, but I remember this being one of the first products that I purchased from them. And I remember picking this up because I kept hearing a lot of people talking about the NARS Laguna bronzer. That bronzer is a little bit too light for me, and it was mostly people with lighter complexions that were talking about that bronzer. And so I had no idea that they actually had a deeper shade. So when I realized that, I went ahead and purchased it because, again, similar to the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, I feel like this is another super popular holy grail product in the beauty community. So I went ahead and picked it up like forever ago, and I had to mention it to you guys because it's such a good bronzer. It is of course a little bit more on the pricey side, but you do get what you pay for with this bronzer. You get a good bit of product, as you can see, and it just applies to the skin so beautifully and looks very natural on the skin. So definitely had to mention this one to you guys if you've been on the fence or thinking about it or had it on your wish list. It is currently the Sephora VIB sale, so go ahead and get it while you can get 15 or 20% off. It will definitely be worth it. So that is going to bring us to the end of my top 10 must-have bronzers for women of color, brown girl friendly, women of color friendly, whatever you want to call it. I have had this video in mind for several weeks, and I was like, you know what, just go ahead and sit down and film it. I felt like this would be the perfect time because, again, like I said, we got the VIB sale going on. So if you want to pick up some of the more high-end bronzers, you can. And we are coming into summer. It's officially May. So I know y'all trying to get your bronze on. I'm trying to get my bronze on. So I figured I would jump on here and help y'all out, especially if you are someone that has been having a hard time finding a decent bronzer for your complexion. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Also, if you have any bronzers that you love that I did not mention in this video, please leave them down below. I'm always open for trying out new products, hearing about things that you guys are loving that I may have never heard of or thought of. So please be sure to leave those down below in the comments. I will have my little pen and paper ready to take down some notes of the things that you guys recommend. And if there are any other top 10 videos that you guys would like to see, be sure to leave those down below in the comments as well. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I have for you guys for today's video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon in my next one.